Spade Parkland here. Welcome. If you are new here, please subscribe, click the bell, ding the dong, bing the bong, all that great stuff. Share everywhere, including your YouTube community tab. We're going to be going over Heretic. Spoiler alert. Hopefully you've seen it already. This movie is about Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. They're Mormons, and they go to give the good news to Mr. Reed, played by Hugh Grant. The movie opens up with Sister Paxton talking to Sister Barnes about adult films, magnums, and member sizes while sitting on a bench that says size doesn't matter. Sister Barnes on the right, her mom was converted into the Mormon faith, whereas Sister Paxton was born and raised in the faith, and that probably is the reason why Sister Paxton is kind of curious about the world, whereas someone like Sister Barnes, even though she's the more experienced of the two, she's more experienced in the Mormon faith as far as going to talk to people and more experienced with dealing with the world. The timid Sister Paxton, who was born and raised in the faith, figures out everything in the movie and survives with Sister Barnes' help. Sister Barnes, who was converted to the church, succumbs to her injury from Mr. Reed after she saves Paxton's life. I guess that kind of goes into the meek shall inherit the earth. Sister Barnes remarks how she converted 8 or 9 people. Paxton has converted none. Then Paxton asks Barnes, how has God shown her the church is true? Barnes remarks she hasn't thought about it. Sister Barnes, her mom was converted to the Mormon faith. She was converted as well because she was, of course, her mom's daughter. And like most people who grow up in the church or converted to it, they feel like it is just the way to go. But most people don't really put much thought into it. And that's why a lot of people end up leaving the church. Where Sister Paxton, she grew up in the church. That's all she knows. She just feels like this is the way just because. Both of them get off the bench and they start walking into town. And Paxton remarks that she really loves the influencers taking pictures at the crosswalk, holding up traffic. The girls ask to take a picture with them. The one on the right asks Sister Paxton, is it true? And Sister Paxton asks, true what? And the girl replies that they wear magic underwear, then pulls Paxton's pants down. And you could tell this was going to be a prank just because of the reaction to the girl on the left and the fact that the one taking the picture continues to take the picture even after Sister Paxton's pants were taken down. So Sister Paxton, she tears up after the prank pulled on her because she's humiliated. And Barnes tells Paxton, who cares what people think? You're awesome, to get Paxton's spirits up. They lock their bikes up against Mr. Reed's gate and take notice of the bike lock that they use because later on in the movie, Mr. Reed's going to come outside, detach the bike lock from the bikes and use the bike lock to lock the back door and hide their bike so that when the elder from the Mormon church comes to check on them, their bikes won't be at the front gate. So they knock on Mr. Reed's door, and as he's coming to the door, you can hear the motion of mechanisms moving, which unlocks the front door. This was the first red flag that he has the ability to unlock the door if he wants to. It just takes a couple of steps for him to do so. So when the girls get inside and they're trapped, or he tells them that they're trapped, this is an indication that he's lying. The mechanisms which are used to unlock the front door that they're able to hear from the outside, we later find out that it's controlled from a gear system hidden within the walls of a light switch. Mr. Reed has inquired on learning more about Mormons to lure women to imprisonment, because we learn later on that only women are in cages, and when Elder Kennedy, a man, comes by and Mr. Reed doesn't trap him, that elaborate trap to imprison people is just for women. They give him a booklet to tell him about the Mormon faith. He says he already has one, but you can never have too many. So Paxton, this is her first time trying to convert someone. She's new, inexperienced. She hits Mr. Reed with a fire hose of Mormon info until Mr. Reed asks them to come inside. Barnes, the more senior missionary, says they can't go inside unless a woman is present. Mr. Reed says his soulmate is inside to lure them into the first part of the trap, past the locked front door. We later find out the soulmate probably means that the women who are imprisoned agree to participate in his elaborate plan and trap because they have developed Stockholm syndrome and are psychologically bonded with Mr. Reed's belief system of control. They say they can't go inside unless a woman is present. Mr. Reed says, oh, my wife's inside. They should have had the wife come to the door before going inside, and that was their first mistake. So Mr. Reed says that he has a wife, he has a soulmate. Come on inside. Paxton says they would love to come in and meet your wife, and Mr. Reed says his wife has just made a blueberry pie. We later find out Mr. Reed feeds a victim a poisonous blue pie and stages her quote-unquote resurrection to prove a point, when in actuality it's the women who are indoctrinated eating the poisonous pie, dying, and then another woman dressed in the same clothes comes up, removes the dead body, and takes her place to stage a resurrection to make Mr. Reed's point about someone dying, going to the afterlife, and then coming back. The blueberry pies have poison, and the imprisoned women eat them to allow themselves to be unalived for Mr. Reed's manipulation trick to have effect. Mr. Reed takes both of their coats, and by having their coats, he checks the pockets and he sees a key. That's where he finds the key to the bike lock outside where the gate is. Mr. Reed takes their coats, says he's going to go check on the blueberry pie, and leaves the room. Paxton notices that the picture displayed just shows Mr. Reed and a dog, no woman, signaling that he does not have a woman who is in his life, but because of her timidness, talking about Sister Paxton, she does not say anything to Barnes. And another red flag, besides the picture only showing Mr. Reed and a dog, is there's no dog. The entire movie, you don't hear a dog, you don't see a dog at all. Mr. Reed comes into the room with pie and says that his wife is being shy. Sister Barnes remarks that the wife needs to be in the room with them. So even though Sister Barnes says that, Mr. Reed changes the subject, saying that religion is the biggest thing, and deflects to that. And now they're sitting in this room with a man with no other signs of life, not even a dog. Mr. Reed asks both of them where they're from. Paxton says that she's from Utah and says that Barnes is from Salt Lake City, Utah. But Barnes corrects Paxton and says she is from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, communicating that they don't know each other very well. Paxton says that she was born and raised in the church, and Barnes says her mom was a convert, suggesting that she was converted as well. So Mr. Reed mentions that he has struggled with figuring out what is the one true religion. Spoiler alert, the one true religion based off this movie is control. All religions come from the same source, and that source was to create something to control the masses.
Wow.
Sister Paxton, being the inexperienced of the two, not picking up the context clues, she remarks that Mr. Reed seems like he is spiritually curious, and says that Joseph Smith, who founded Mormonism, investigated many religions before creating his own. Mr. Reed demonstrates knowledge of how Joseph came to create Mormonism, and has a Book of Mormon which foreshadows that Mr. Reed does not need to be educated on Mormonism, which is the point of the women visiting. So as Mr. Reed takes the Book of Mormon and puts it on a table with many tabs on the right side, Paxton is impressed and says Mr. Reed reads more than they do, which should be a red flag. Why does Mr. Reed need you to come tell him and talk to him about Mormonism, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when he has a Book of Mormon, he has stuff on the side that are tabbed off, like he's already been reading it. At this point, it's either you want it or you don't. And usually religious people, they're so sometimes consumed, sometimes obsessed, sometimes having tunnel vision, they don't really understand that what's in front of them may be more than meets the eye. Paxton says that they should be more like him, which foreshadows the idea that Mr. Reed is going to attempt to convert them to his religion, the religion of control. Earlier, Sister Barnes mentioned that her father passed away. That's what prompted her mom to get into Mormonism and convert to it. Mr. Reed asks Barnes, how did her father pass away? Sister Paxton butts in and says that Barnes' father passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease. Mr. Reed asks if Barnes has received any signs of her father since he has passed. She says no. This foreshadows the manipulation that Reed will attempt by saying his female prophet is going to die, then come back to life with what it's like on the other side. This manipulation will be to trick the women into thinking there is no God. The entire time they've been there, Sister Paxton, who is the more inexperienced of the two between her and Sister Barnes, she keeps trying to speak for Sister Barnes, thinking that it's an okay thing to do. But when you have someone who's been sheltered, has not been cultured, not been socialized with etiquette, they tend to somewhat be childlike, where children will just say whatever's on their minds without reading the room and understanding that Sister Barnes is uncomfortable and doesn't want Sister Paxton spilling all of her personal information.
Yikes.
So Sister Paxton says when she dies, she wants to be reincarnated as a butterfly, which is weird because someone who believes in religion and God should believe in a heaven, but what Sister Paxton is talking about is reincarnation, and she says that she wants to be a butterfly that will follow her family around and loved ones around, and she will land on their fingertip to let them know it's her. The electricity flashes, then Reed says it's time for blueberry pie and enlightenment. The blueberry pie is a metaphor for blind faith and a way for Mr. Reed to manipulate his victims. The blueberry pie is a reminder to question everything. Mr. Reed's plan is to, quote unquote, break the sisters' faith by proving that religion is a desire for control and isn't real. Then Mr. Reed asks the girls, how do they feel about polygamy?
Everybody got jokes tonight, dog.
He doubles down and asks, how do you feel about the concept of a man having multiple wives? Paxton says it's not for her. Then Sister Barnes responds with a question if he's asking from biblical perspective. Mr. Reed acknowledges that it's a misogynistic practice, but he's curious about it in terms of concept. And this part is just really foreshadowing the fact that Mr. Reed has women in his basement trapped in cages who are emaciated, who he's calling his quote unquote wives. They're not free to leave, and they've been broken mentally for him to set them up to eat a poisonous pie, to be deleted, to prove their loyalty to his religion, the religion of control. So Sister Barnes, she responds that at one point, Mormons did practice polygamy to increase their ranks, but it's now outdated. And Sister Paxton's response is, yeah, it's sketch for sure. And you can tell in the scene that Sister Barnes, she's leaning forward. She's the more seasoned, more knowledgeable, whereas Sister Paxton, she's uninterested in the conversation. Their tones have changed. Back when it was a friendly conversation about surface level stuff, Paxton was all over it. And Sister Barnes was kind of like weirded out. But now that they're getting into the meat and potatoes of actual Mormonism, we see the experience of Sister Barnes to shine, and we see why Sister Paxton has not recruited anyone, because she's not reading, she's not studying, she's not becoming knowledgeable to answer these type of questions that would be key to actually recruiting people. So Mr. Reed responds that he's worried or concerned that Joseph Smith used the idea of polygamy to justify the many affairs that he had with multiple women. And this continues to foreshadow the idea that religion's about control, it's not real, it's something to manipulate. So Mr. Reed, he accuses the church of using brainwashing tactics, similar to coming up with polygamy to justify having affairs. So Mr. Reed presents the idea of, if God created the word or revelation, which is a part of the word, and filtered it through man, and man is flawed, how do we know that religion, with all the books and information and the history that's filtered through man and man being flawed, how do we know if any of it is true? So Sister Paxton responds that they believe or know that it's true based off of how it makes them feel. So it's feelings over facts. So Mr. Reed says that as he's doing research in school and he started to get more into a personal relationship with God, he found out that the more you know, the more you don't know, which I believe means that the more you find out about religion and the truth about it, the more you realize that it's not what you think it is. So you don't really know the actual truth because there is no actual truth, because religion is a lie. So Mr. Reed says that he never intended to find the one true religion, and then he did. After Mr. Reed steps out of the room to quote unquote get his wife, that's when Barnes goes to the candle, turns it around, and it says blueberry pie. That's when she realizes that the smell of blueberry pie was from the candle. They go to the front door, they realize it's locked, and they have no phone signal. So Mr. Reed, he leads them into another room. They realize that they lock the bikes with a bike lock. The key to the bike lock is in their coats. He has their coats. But even if they did have their coats and the key to the bike lock, the front door is locked. So the front door is locked, and we learn that Mr. Reed has a mechanism inside of this light switch that when you take the front plate of the light switch off, there's like a mechanism system that allows you to open the front door. Mr. Reed is going to tell them that the front door is on a timer and you got to go out the back door of the back of the house to be able to get out, but it's actually a lie because there's a mechanism on the inside of the light switch that operates the front door that would allow them to leave. And this is the main indication that Mr. Reed had no intention of actually teaching them and giving them a choice whether to accept his belief system of there being one true religion, which is control. He's forcing them to be indoctrinated, and throughout the rest of the movie, he gives them situations where he gives them a non-choice choice, similar to how he tells them that they can leave, but they really can't, which is the illusion of choice. Similar to how when babies are brought up into the church or raised in the church, they're not really given a choice whether to accept their religion or not. It's an illusion of choice. But if your parents are religious and they go to a Catholic church, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be going to a Catholic church. So you don't have any choice. And these two girls don't have any choice as far as whether to accept Mr. Reed's idea of a one true religion or not. The electricity gets cut and the house is completely dark, which is to lure them from the living room into the room that Mr. Reed was in when they said that they were going to make a phone call. The camera pans over to a large study room. There's 2 doors, one on the left, one on the right. They both lead to a basement. On one of the doors, he writes belief. On the other door, he writes disbelief. After debating, Sister Barnes chooses the belief door and Sister Paxton follows. As they go down the steps, Mr. Reed closes the door behind them and it's pitch dark. In the basement, there's a table and a chair, and an old woman comes out and places a poisoned blueberry pie on the table and sits down. He has made an architectural model of his home, and he has figurines of both Barnes and Paxton, and as he moves the figurines down, it shows that he has been planning this for a while and everything is going according to his plan. So the old woman that came out that put the pie on the table, she's crouched down in like a praying position as if praying to what I believe is Mr. Reed. Some time ago, the woman came, he indoctrinated her with his rhetoric, trapping her down there and convincing her that a previous woman ate the poison pie and was resurrected, which is a trick. She believed it, obtained Stockholm Syndrome, and is now one of like his disciples. So while the music is playing, she's almost praying to be a part of this ritual to help Mr. Reed convince these 2 girls that his one true religion, which is control, is the way. So he claims that they're in the presence of a living prophet of God, and the pair will witness her resurrection. And he needs them to witness and to verify that it is a miracle. He mentions that in the blueberry pie, he's included wolfsbane, which is going to take the woman's life. And after she dies, by the grace of God, she'll be resurrected. which we later learn that is not true, in that another woman is going to come in, take her out of the room, take her place, and make it appear that the woman who loses her life by eating the poisoned pie is resurrected. She eats some of the pie, and then she drops dead. And as Sister Barnes raises the woman's head, Sister Paxton checks the pulse and verifies the woman is deceased. And Sister Barnes verifies that the woman is no longer breathing. Sister Paxton remembers that when the woman died, she was facing towards the right. But when she goes back downstairs, the woman is facing the other way to the left. And Sister Paxton remarks that she moved. Sister Paxton notices that the woman is no longer at the table. The woman is right behind Sister Paxton. And the woman says, there is no heaven, and that it is not real. And Mr. Reed comes down, thanks the quote-unquote prophet for her passage into the afterlife. He tells the woman that her prophecy will be recorded, and then leads her upstairs. Then Mr. Reed comes back downstairs. Mr. Reed asks them, what did they witness? What did they see? So Mr. Reed, he tempts them to eat the poison pie because if they die, they can be brought back. So Barnes reveals that when she was younger, she and other people ate Taco Bell. They had E. coli, and Barnes had a near-death experience due to the contaminated food from Taco Bell, and that she saw a blinding white light and the same things that the prophet saw. Barnes rejects the prophet's description, notes that it was similar to common hallucinations from near-death experiences. So Mr. Reed goes into like a villain monologue saying that she doesn't really remember Taco Bell. She remembers a memory of a memory of a memory of a memory, echoing the idea that he presented before that current religions are just a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of what the one true religion is. Sister Paxton takes out the letter opener, gets into position to get the signal from Barnes to slash Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed says, we're not talking about a magic trick. And Sister Barnes says, no, we're talking about magic underwear, which was the signal for Sister Paxton to attack Mr. Reed. But Mr. Reed instead slashes Barnes' throat and claims that she will also be resurrected. The man pulled a reverse Uno. Blood starts coming out of Barnes's neck. Yeah, Paxton, she's got to be quicker than that. So this would have been a great time for Paxton to go ahead and attack, but she was in shock. It's revealed that the box cutter that Mr. Reed was using to create the figurines on the architecture model is what he used to slash Barnes' throat. So Paxton takes off towards the top steps where the door is. Where are you going to go? It's locked. Paxton realizes that everything was orchestrated by Reed. While the girls were distracted by the elder's arrival, a second woman hid the prophet's corpse, took her place, and delivered the afterlife description as scripted by Reed, adding an unplanned comment, "It's not real." Reed's killing of Barnes, an attempt to convince Paxton of a simulated reality, was an improvisation from the plan going off the expected course. Paxton discovers an underground chute in which the prophet's corpse was hidden and climbs down, with Reed promising it will show her the one true religion. Paxton does find a dead body. After she climbed down and found the dead body, Mr. Reed, looking above, closes the latch. Paxton finds a chamber full of thin and feeble women, all in cages, and the chamber is locked with the bike lock she used before entering Reed's house. And Mr. Reed reveals that it's easier to control someone who's lost everything. Paxton realizes Reed's conclusion that a desire to control others is the root of all religions. Paxton stabs Reed with a letter opener. She runs upstairs while Reed starts to bleed out. The camera pulls out to show Paxton navigating the underground labyrinth, trying to get up from the lower part of the basement. It's almost like she's going around in his architectural model. And she makes it all the way to the lecture room. With no way out, she has to go back down to where she came from. Reed comes out of nowhere and stabs Paxton with the box cutter. As they both bleed in the basement, Paxton prays, telling Reed that it is done to show kindness to others rather than to produce material results. Mr. Reed crawls to Paxton and prepares to finish her off, but Barnes, who is still alive, kills him with a plank of wood before dying. Paxton climbs out of a window and a butterfly lands on her hand. She earlier expressed a desire to be reincarnated as a butterfly that appears on the hands of her loved ones. It vanishes, leaving Paxton alone. I think this symbolizes that Paxton did not survive. She's imagining this right before actually crossing over to the other side while she bleeds out. And she's hallucinating being a butterfly. And at the end, when the butterfly leaves her hands, I think that's when she passes away. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts. Thumbs up the video, share your social media, subscribe. Let me know if you like these movie explained videos. Thanks for watching. Go forth, do great things, and I'm out. Peace.